Let's continue building an authentic culture with our discussion on culture. Diversity, which we've just finished in the last lesson, looks like a lot of things. But one thing that we do know is that our exposure to different people, different types of people, people from different places, other countries that speak different languages, that look different than we do, it impacts our lens through which we view the world. So if we grew up in a place where it was just us and our culture and our people, things that we are used to, then that kind of impacts the way that we act, react, or respond when we meet people who are different than we are. So let's look at the difference between diversity and culture. We just had a whole lesson on diversity. It's just basically the ways that we are different, and we celebrate those ways that we are different. But if we look at a definition of culture, it's what shapes us. It's our behavior and our identity. So think about the high school that you went to. When it comes to sports, you had an identity around that team that you supported. Even now in professional sports, when you get around people who support your team, that your behavior and your identity become part of that culture, right? So culture is our way of living. It refers to our shared language, beliefs, values, norms, and even sometimes material objects that are passed down from one generation to the next. So this culture is passed down from one generation to the next. Things that our grandmothers told us how to behave, what not to do, what wasn't safe, a neighborhood not to go in, people not to talk to. These are part of our norms and are part of our culture. So it's just important that we understand diversity is a basic, right? It's how we're different and sometimes how we're alike. But culture is a whole mix of those things and how they all come together. So that's the difference between diversity and culture. So let's look at the culture iceberg. We have visible culture, things that you can look. You can look at me from a diversity perspective and put me in a particular culture that I am a woman, that I am a black woman, that I am a black woman with natural hair. And so you might associate me with a particular language, or that I might honor certain holidays like Martin Luther King Day, or I might love Black History Month. But there's invisible parts of my culture that you wouldn't know. So part of my belief system, I am a Christian. And so you wouldn't know that unless you intentionally got to know me. And these are wonderful things that we get to peek below the surface of people. And so when we think about building that authentic workplace culture, as you know, I've talked a lot about building bridges, right? And we'll look at that in just a little while. But building that bridge allows us, as we cross that bridge, to kind of look under the surface and find out more about each other. And the more authentic we are, then the more those who we interact with at work can learn, grow, embrace diversity, trust that difference is not an issue, trust that we have more things in common than we actually know. And so when we think about all the ways that we are diverse, short, tall, we actually see how that actually helps build our workplace culture, how it helps us reach something in the break room that someone who's shorter can't. Of course, that's a very light analogy, but when we think about access, when we think about someone who might have impaired vision, and a person on their team in their workplace might be able to give them that vision, that sight for that thing that they aren't able to quite be able to see, right? So we have to be authentic in our diversity because it allows the other people to step up right? And accentuate us and build the workplace so that all can be represented, all viewpoints. There's diversity in thought, right? Perspective, where you come from, right? All of those things help you be a better organization, help you market better, help you build products better, help you understand who your customers are better and what they might be going through. You might be grew up with a certain background, and you know that when this thing happens, the way you deliver your product, the way you service your people is going to be different. And you wouldn't know that if people in your organization weren't from different backgrounds, different places, different cultures. So we make each other better when we don't look at just the visible culture, but we look at the invisible culture and celebrate each other, knowing that we add to in our authenticity, not deplete from. That's good. So we're discussing culture within our diversity, and how when we are authentic, when we embrace all of who we are, 100% of who we are, and figure out how that goes into the workplace, then we are building and not destroying because someone is different or they look, think, or act different than we are. Get curious and try and figure out, why did you come up with that conclusion? Why do you want to approach it that way? That's building an authentic workplace culture, 1, 2, 3 people at a time.